Hello again, here Craig from forbiddenknowledge.info. I've been asked a lot recently because of a lot of people's beliefs of something that's going to happen September of 2015, and that has the potential for financial collapse as well, banks being closed and so on. You watch the events of Greece and other places, Cyprus, Iceland. It happens all the time in world history, every time. All paper currencies, all fiat currencies will collapse. It's inevitable. They have to. It's a mathematical certainty. So if you're deathly afraid of losing your money in the banks, you ought to take it out now. Doesn't matter about September or anything else. Any kind of prediction anybody makes about bank failure is totally wrong, because I've been doing this for decades, and there is always talk of imminent financial collapse for the last 100 years if the Federal Reserve Bank system has been in place. Always has been, always will be. So just because the internet kind of magnifies the scares doesn't mean it's any less of a problem than it was 50 years or 100 years ago, because it could happen anytime. It just so happens the Federal Reserve Bank has been around the longest in world history now as far as paper ponzi schemes, because that's really what it is. So if you're deathly afraid of it, you really shouldn't have any money in the bank other than what you're willing to afford to lose anyway. I would suggest, if you're really afraid of the banks and you're still doing banking, because I can't do banking, it's not possible for a sovereign like me without a social security number. If you're still doing banking and you're deathly afraid of a collapse, then don't have any money in the bank other than what you're willing to lose. Just have your daily, routine, pay the bills money in the bank, so that if it collapses, then you haven't lost much money. Okay? That's my first advice to you. So what do you do with your money? Because a lot of people ask me, well, what can I put the money in where it would survive, be useful for me in case things really go to hell? Well, I can talk about a few of those, but essentially the answer is nothing. Because it's all debt instruments. You didn't buy anything with them. You only exchanged debts. As debt is all you did. It's debt currency. It's not even really money per se. Doesn't have intrinsic value. It's only in your head. It's in your mind. There's no difference between a $1 bill and a $100 bill except for the number of zeros on it. It's all in your head. Because it's not backed by anything anymore. It hasn't been for many decades, actually, if we're talking about Federal Reserve notes here. So, where do you put your money? Well, you could say you could buy land, you could put it in real estate. Well, you didn't buy the land, you only exchanged debt again, and you don't own the land anyway, because you ran down and got went to the recorder's office and recorded it, and you didn't pay for it anyway because you didn't use lawful money, and so it's their land. You signed it over to them, and proof of that is you pay a yearly fee to do something, whatever you want with your land. Come on, give me a break. Real estate is, you don't own it. It's all been hypothecated to the Federal Reserve Bank anyway. You don't own real estate, period. I don't care what you think, what your status is, what you think, unless you have an allodial title or a land patent, you don't own that land. So they can come take it from you whenever they want, essentially, if things really go to hell. And by the way, people who like to hype up Kennedy as being a great president, well, he has some of the worst restrictive executive orders on the books about what happens in an emergency. You buy a car, you say, you're going to put your money in your car. Same thing, you don't own the car, you don't own title of the car, you only have a certificate of title. It's not title of the car. You didn't buy the car anyway, you paid for it with debt instruments. You just exchanged a debt, you didn't really pay for it at all. So anything you can buy with it, essentially, you don't own it, because you're using their private money. Federal Reserve Bank is basically a quasi-government, but it's really a private organization. You need to do some research and look at what the difference between a U.S. note, a United States note is, and a Federal Reserve note, or a silver certificate, or a gold certificate. Find out what real money is and what the difference is between lawful money and legal tender, because legal tender isn't even a noun, it's a verb. So, let's get back to, okay, what else can you put your money in? Well, gold and silver is one thing that I recommend, just like in fact, if you go to any legitimate financial advisor, they will tell you have a certain percentage of gold and silver also, like 10%, 15%, something like that, to have some gold and silver on it. And I don't mean the paper stocks. I mean actually holding the gold and silver in your hands. All right? The real thing. That's one thing you can do with it. However, that's kind of be a loser too. In my opinion, this is my opinion here, so all you trolls do whatever you want, but they're going to have to make gold and silver illegal. When the dollar collapses, they're going to have to make it illegal. I don't care what you think. This is my opinion. They're going to have to make it illegal. 1933 all over again, folks. The ownership of gold was made illegal for many decades. From Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933 by executive order all the way through Nixon. Gold was illegal for you to own. Now, back in 1933, and then in 34, they had silver hoarding laws to make it, you couldn't have certain amounts, but they still had it in our money. Still had it in our money. Now we don't have it in our money anymore. They're not, if the dollar collapses, they're not going to allow people to be running around with real money, interfering with their ability to get this new electronic money system going that they want to get going. Yeah, they've been conditioning you now for decades, starting with MasterCard, Bank Americard, or MasterCharge and Bank Americard. Remember that? They're conditioning you for now the last 4 decades or so to believe those pieces of plastic in your pocket are money, or that digital is money. And they've got you all believing because you're all using it. I see you every day at the shows. I see you every day trying to pay for things, which you can't. You can't pay for things with debt. It's the same thing. But that's what they want to do. That's what they're going to want to do, is they're going to want to change everything over to a fake debt currency, where you don't even actually hold a currency anymore. It's just a piece of plastic, or eventually someday, for all you Bible thumpers, a microchip in the right hand or the forehead. Okay, whatever. It's still just all fake. It's a new medium of exchange that they want. That way they have total control over you. Don't believe me? Look around, folks. No, people aren't laughing so much anymore when I say that now. Recently, I've noticed parking meters in Louisville, Kentucky. Swipe a card, no more coins. Some of these still have coins. Recently, also now I've seen. I saw once a toll road in Chicago area. No cash accepted. The last vestiges are coin laundromats. Cards now. You can do cards. Even the things you pull up the air in your tires at gas stations. A lot of cards are coming in now. So they're removing the last obstacles for this new electronic money to be in place, where they can control everything you do. They control you now anyway. Most of you don't know that. But now it's going to be a little bit more visible. And you're going to try to resist by buying gold and silver, right? And using that as money. Well, what happens one day, you wake up and the banks have collapsed, and by executive order, President whoever says, well, now we have, by executive order, we're declaring gold and silver to be illegal. What are you going to do? Well, because now you got contraband. Now you got drugs, essentially. Just don't get caught with them. It's going to be real easy to get caught with it, too, because not only will that be happening, but at the same time, the federal government is going to be offering rewards or credits for anybody who turns in them evil patriots. I call them Hitler Youth. That's what they'll be. They'll be Hitler Youth running around trying to turn people in for the reward credits the government's going to be offering for all those evil patriots, don't you know, that are using real money, that are hampering our ability to get this electronic money system off the ground. Again, folks, this is my opinion, but I think it's kind of logical what's going to happen here. So, cash. What about cash? Cash could be a way to go for a short period of time. But as soon as the American people don't believe, because that's all it is, all belief, as soon as Americans don't believe that those pieces of paper are of any value anymore, then they're going to run from them. You got toilet paper, basically. So it's something that could happen with the cash part of it. Now, in the very short term, as Greece and Cyprus and some of these other places have shown us, that not having that money in the bank could be a very good thing. If you want to put it under your mattress, that's fine. You're getting 0% interest on it anyway, at least in 2015. And so having the cash at home would be a certainly better way than having it in the bank. So that would be my first suggestion to you. If you don't want to risk it on gold and silver, if you don't want to risk it on some of these other things I've been talking about, then have it in cash that you can use, and maybe, just maybe, it will be accepted for a short period of time right after such collapse. Maybe. Maybe not. And then in which case, well, then you got toilet paper, because that's what it will be worth. So some cash at hand could be king. But however, here's something even better, in my opinion. Of course, a full disclosure here, I am a seller and dealer of freeze-dried food, water filters, gas masks, and I'm the radiation equipment guy for basically the whole country. Nobody else does this at the shows. So I sell survival supplies. So this is just a little, note there. I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. What will be king in a complete financial collapse will be those survival supplies. People will pay a lot of money. In fact, if you have a gold coin, how many people are going to really want that gold coin when they want to eat? Okay, now maybe, just maybe, you'll find somebody to trade that gold coin with their money, with their food, but the food will be more valuable than the gold, to be frank with you. So having some way of making clean water, very, very important. That's number one, actually, making clean water. Having clean water to drink and some food to eat might be a better investment than anything else that you're thinking of now, if you're talking about taking your money out of the bank. So anyway, do some research on that. Another thing might be seeds or maybe tools, things you can actually use. And by the way, when you pay for these things, don't pay by credit card online. Pay it with a money order or pay with cash in person. Try not to do it through the mails, because you've created a paper trail. There's executive orders on the books, among many, many, many other executive orders, to prevent you from doing anything with your money. That if you have more than 2 weeks worth of food store, you might be considered a food hoarder, and you might get a knock on your door someday saying, "Hey bud, your neighbors are eating, you got to share." And you've created a paper trail with your Federal Reserve notes or your UPS or US Postal Service or whatever, or a checking account. Somehow you've made a paper trail so people know you have it. So whatever you do with your money, try to keep it your own little secret, because it might become critical to you someday in the future if things get really bad. Now, things may never happen. Again, I've been watching this stuff for decades. I've been hearing about imminent financial collapse for decades. And somehow they hold it together. So I'm not saying we have an imminent collapse coming. It will happen someday. I just don't know when. And neither do any of the clowns on here on YouTube that claim they know the date that's going to happen. They've proven that over and over again throughout the last couple decades of YouTube. So don't listen to anybody who says they know exact date when something's going to happen, because somebody important whispered something secret into my ear. It just doesn't work that way, folks. When it happens, it will be a surprise. And you won't have time to run to the bank, because then all of a sudden, when you hear about it, it's already too late. So what do you do with your money? Only have as much in the bank as you can be willing to afford to lose. Have some in cash at home. Buy some gold and silver with the knowledge that it will probably be made illegal someday. And then probably some supplies, tools, things you can actually use that won't be on the target of seizure when all this happens. So anyway, I guess that's enough of a summary for now. I can get into much greater detail about any of these things. Thanks all for watching, and so long.